The call came at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was reviewing marketing proposals for our biggest client when my phone lit up with Aunt Sylvia's number. My stomach dropped before I even answered. She never called this late. "Vienna, honey, it's your mother. You need to come home." I'm Vienna, and that call changed everything. Within 24 hours, I had packed up my life in Chicago, taken an indefinite leave from my position as marketing director, and moved back into my childhood home in Milwaukee to care for my mother, Hazel. The house smelled exactly the same: lavender and old books. Mom always joked that she'd rather spend money on hardcovers than air fresheners. But now she lay in her bed upstairs, barely able to lift those beloved books. "I brought you some tea," I said, placing the mug on her nightstand. The cancer had eaten away at her so quickly that sometimes I hardly recognized her. Her once vibrant red hair had thinned to wisps, and her green eyes seemed to sink deeper into her face each day. "You shouldn't have left everything for me," she whispered, her hand trembling as she reached for the cup. "Your job, Blaze." "Mom, stop. The job will wait. And Blaze understands." I didn't mention that my fiancé's understanding had come with an ultimatum: "Don't expect me to wait forever." 3 months later, he'd stopped calling. "I need to tell you something," Mom said, her voice urgent. "About the past." A coughing fit seized her before she could finish. I held her shoulders as she shook, watching helplessly as she gasped for air. When it finally passed, she fell back against the pillows, exhausted. "Rest now," I said, smoothing her hair. "We can talk later." That night, I sat in the kitchen, surrounded by medical bills and insurance paperwork. The house creaked with familiar sounds: the furnace kicking on, the grandfather clock in the hall marking midnight. I used to find these noises comforting. Now they felt like ghosts of happier times. My phone buzzed with a text from Jordan, my best friend since 3rd grade. "How's she doing? Need me to bring dinner tomorrow?" "Thanks, but I'm okay," I typed back, just trying to figure out how long I can stretch my savings. I hadn't told anyone that I'd already drained my 401k. Mom's treatment costs were astronomical, and her insurance barely covered half. But she'd given me everything growing up, working 2 jobs after Dad left, never missing a dance recital or parent-teacher conference. This was the least I could do. A sound from upstairs made me freeze. Mom was talking in her sleep again, something she'd started doing recently. "I'm sorry," she mumbled as I approached her bed. "I'm so sorry, Vienna. Braden. I should have." I leaned closer, but the rest was unintelligible. Who was Braden? Another mystery to add to the growing list of things that didn't make sense lately. The next morning, I found her staring at an old photo album. "Remember this?" she asked, pointing to a picture of us at the lake house. I was maybe 7, gap-toothed and sunburned, proudly holding up a fishing rod. "Dad took that, didn't he? Right before he left." She closed the album abruptly. "Some memories are better left in the past, sweetheart." "Mom, what aren't you telling me?" "Last night you mentioned someone named Braden." "I need my medication," she interrupted, hands shaking as she reached for the pill organizer. I helped her with the pills, but something felt off. The way she avoided my eyes, how quickly she changed the subject. It was like watching a door slowly close, one I hadn't even known was open. Later that day, Aunt Sylvia stopped by with groceries. I caught her and Mom whispering in the bedroom, their conversation stopping abruptly when I entered. "Just discussing old times," Aunt Sylvia said, too brightly. "You know how we get." But I saw the tear tracks on Mom's cheeks, the way her hands clutched a piece of paper that disappeared under her pillow as soon as I walked in. That night, as I lay in my old bedroom staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck on the ceiling at 13, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something huge. Mom's mysterious apologies, the name Braden, the secretive conversations with Aunt Sylvia. It all pointed to something hidden, something that made my chest tight with anxiety. I pulled out my phone and opened Google, fingers hovering over the keyboard. What exactly was I looking for? What questions should I even be asking? And more importantly, with Mom's health declining so rapidly, Did I really want to know the answers? The grandfather clock struck midnight, its chimes echoing through the quiet house. Somewhere down the hall, Mom started talking in her sleep again, her words too faint to make out, but heavy with what sounded like regret. The next few weeks fell into a rhythm of doctor's appointments, medication schedules, and sleepless nights. I learned to measure time not by hours, but by Mom's good days and bad days. Your mother's declining faster than we anticipated, Dr. Roberts said during one of our weekly visits. You might want to start making arrangements. I gripped the edge of his desk. How long? Weeks, maybe days. That evening, I found Mom sorting through her jewelry box, her fingers trembling as she picked through old necklaces and rings. Come here, sweetheart. She patted the bed beside her. I want you to have my sapphire pendant. Your father gave it to me when… She stopped abruptly, frowning at a small key buried beneath the jewelry. What's that for? I asked. She closed her hand around it. Nothing important, just an old safety deposit box. But her voice shook, and I caught that familiar flash of guilt in her eyes. Mom, please, whatever you're hiding. Vienna, she cut me off, suddenly looking more alert than she had in weeks. There are things you don't understand, things I've done. I only wanted to protect you. Before I could press further, she started coughing violently. I reached for her water glass, but she waved it away, struggling to catch her breath. Then her eyes went wide, and she clutched her chest. Mom? Mom! The next hours passed in a blur of ambulance sirens, hospital corridors, and doctors speaking in hushed tones. By sunrise, I was sitting alone in a plastic chair, staring at my mother's empty bed, while a nurse explained something about death certificates and funeral homes. Aunt Sylvia arrived first, wrapping me in a hug that smelled of cigarettes and vanilla. Oh, honey, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Jordan came next, bringing coffee and staying silent. She always knew when words weren't enough. My boss, Simone, sent flowers with a note, promising my job would be waiting whenever I was ready. The funeral was small, just how Mom would have wanted it. I stood between Aunt Sylvia and Jordan as they lowered the casket, feeling hollow and numb. But it wasn't until the will reading 3 days later that my world truly fell apart. Otis, Mom's lawyer, met me in his downtown office. The room felt too warm, and his bow tie was slightly crooked, details my brain fixated on as he shuffled through papers. Before we begin, he said, adjusting his glasses, your mother wanted me to give you this. He handed me an envelope with my name written in Mom's elegant script. My hands shook as I opened it. My dearest Vienna, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I know you'll have questions, so many questions. The truth is, I've made mistakes, terrible mistakes that I've spent years trying to make right. Please try to understand that everything I did was to protect both you and Braden. Yes, Braden, your brother. Otis will explain everything. I'm so sorry for the pain this will cause you. Know that I love you more than life itself, even if my actions don't show it. Mom. I looked up at Otis, my vision blurring. Brother. What brother? He cleared his throat. Braden Kelly, your mother's son from an affair she had 30 years ago, and the sole beneficiary of her estate. The room tilted sideways. What? The house, her savings, everything goes to Braden. She was very specific about this in her will. But I'm her daughter. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. I gave up everything to care for her, and you're telling me she left everything to some secret love child I've never even met. There's more, Otis said quietly. Braden doesn't know about any of this. He doesn't even know Hazel was his mother. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound that didn't seem like it could have come from me. So she not only cut me out of the will, but left everything to someone who doesn't even know she existed. This has to be a joke. Your mother had her reasons. Her reasons? I snatched up my purse. Her reasons for lying to me my entire life. For watching me drain my savings to care for her while she had a secret son and a secret will. Vienna, please sit down. There are things you need to know But I was already heading for the door. Mom's letter crumpled in my fist. Behind me, I heard Otis call out something about legal proceedings and contact information, but his words were drowned out by the roaring in my ears. In the parking lot, I sat in my car and pulled out my phone. With trembling fingers, I typed Braden Kelly into Facebook. The first result showed a man about my age, with Mom's green eyes and familiar smile, teaching in a classroom. My brother, my secret brother, who had just inherited everything I'd spent my life working for. Well, Mom wanted him to have it all? Fine. But first, he was going to learn exactly what kind of woman our mother really was. I spent the next week in a fog of rage and betrayal, ignoring calls from Aunt Sylvia and dodging Jordan's attempts to check on me. The house felt like a museum of lies. Every photo, every memento now suspect. I couldn't look at anything without wondering what other secrets it held. My phone buzzed again. Jordan. For the third time today. Finally, I answered. "You can't hide forever," she said, before I could speak. "I'm coming over with wine." An hour later, we sat on the floor of my childhood bedroom, surrounded by boxes I'd started packing. "I just can't believe she'd do this," I said, taking another swig straight from the bottle. 30 years of lies. And now some stranger gets everything. Jordan picked up a framed photo from one of the boxes. "Have you looked him up?" "Braden." I pulled out my phone, showing her his Facebook profile. "He's a high school English teacher in Madison. Married, no kids. Looks like he volunteers at animal shelters on weekends. He's basically perfect. And he has no idea. None." I grabbed another box, this one full of Mom's old papers. "But he's about to find out." "Vienna." Jordan's voice held a warning. "What are you planning?" Before I could answer, something fell from the box, an old leather-bound journal, Mom's diary. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Oh my God," I whispered, scanning the pages. She wrote about him, about everything. The entries dated back to 1993, describing her affair with Thomas, Braden's father. How she discovered she was pregnant, how she gave birth in secret, and arranged for Thomas's sister to raise the baby. "Listen to this," I read aloud. "I watch him sometimes, at the park, with his aunt. He has Thomas's laugh, my eyes. Vienna would love having a brother, but I can't risk destroying everything. Better they never know." Jordan touched my arm. "Maybe she was trying to protect you both." "Protect us?" I slammed the diary shut. "She lied to us our entire lives. And then my voice broke. She made me think I was all she had. Watched me sacrifice everything to care for her, knowing she was planning to leave it all to him. So what now? You're going to track him down and tell him everything?" "Not yet." I pulled out my laptop. "First, I need to understand why. Mom mentioned a safety deposit box key before she died. I'm going to find it and see what else she was hiding." The next morning, I drove to Aunt Sylvia's house. She opened the door before I could knock, looking unsurprised. "I wondered when you'd come," she said, stepping aside to let me in. Otis called me after the will reading. Her living room was cluttered with family photos, including several I'd never seen before. One caught my eye, Mom at what looked like a school graduation, standing far in the background. "That's Braden's high school graduation," Aunt Sylvia said quietly. "Your mother went to every important event in his life, always keeping her distance. You knew?" I spun to face her. "All this time?" She sank into her armchair, suddenly looking older. "I helped her arrange everything with Thomas's sister. It was different back then, Vienna. A married woman having an affair, a secret child. It would have ruined all of you. So you helped her lie, for 30 years. I helped her protect her family. Both her families." She reached for her purse, pulling out a small key. "She gave me this last month. Said you'd come looking for it eventually. The safety deposit box key." I grabbed it, my hand shaking. "What else do you know?" "Only that whatever's in that box changed everything for her. It's why she rewrote her will." She caught my arm as I turned to leave. "Vienna, wait. Your mother loved you more than anything. Whatever you're planning, you don't get to talk to me about love." I pulled away. Not after 30 years of lies. Back in my car, I studied the key. The tag showed it was from First National Bank downtown. Tomorrow, I'd find out what was in that box. Tomorrow, I'd understand why my mother betrayed me. My phone lit up with a Facebook notification. Braden had posted a photo of himself with his students, all smiling after winning some literary competition. He looked so much like Mom, it hurt. "Enjoy your perfect life while you can, brother," I muttered, starting the car. Because once I open that safety deposit box, everything changes. What I didn't know then was just how right I was, but not in the way I expected. The contents of that box wouldn't just change Braden's life. They would shatter everything I thought I knew about my mother, my family, and myself. The safety deposit box contained exactly 3 items: a stack of letters, a USB drive, and a handwritten note addressed to me. My hands shook as I read it in the bank's private viewing room. "Vienna, if you're reading this, you've discovered the truth about Braden. Before you do anything, please watch the video on the drive. And remember, sometimes the greatest acts of love look like betrayal from the outside." I plugged the USB drive into my laptop right there. Mom's face filled the screen, recorded just weeks before her death. She looked tired but determined. "My darling girl," she began, "I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But there's something you need to understand about Braden, about why I made the choices I did." I slammed the laptop shut. I couldn't watch this, not yet. Instead, I grabbed the letters and left, driving straight to the address I'd memorized from Braden's Facebook profile. Madison West High School looked exactly like the photos online. I sat in my car, watching students filter out after the final bell. Then I saw him, tall, with Mom's green eyes and easy smile, locking up his classroom. Before I could lose my nerve, I got out of the car. "Braden." He turned, friendly but confused. "Yes, can I help you?" "I'm Vienna." My voice cracked. Hazel was my mother. His expression didn't change. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "Who's Hazel?" "Your mother, our mother." He stepped back, shaking his head. "There must be some mistake. My mother was Sarah Kelly. She died when I was young. Sarah was your aunt. She raised you because Hazel couldn't keep you." I thrust the letters at him. "Here's proof." His hands trembled as he took them. "This is insane. I need to sit down." We ended up at a coffee shop across the street. Braden read through the letters while I watched his world unravel, just like mine had. "These are from my mother, Sarah, to someone named Hazel," he said finally. "They're about me, my childhood. Mom made Sarah promise to write to her every month, to send pictures, report cards, everything." He looked up sharply. "Why are you here? Why now?" "Because Mom died 3 weeks ago, and she left everything to you." "What?" He pushed the letters away. "That's ridiculous. I never even met her." "But she met you. She was at your graduation, your college acceptance ceremony, your wedding, always watching from a distance." I pulled out my phone, showing him the photo from Aunt Sylvia's house. "See?" His face went pale. "I remember her. She was always around, just watching. I thought she was one of the other parents." He ran a hand through his hair. "This is too much. I have a family, a life. I can't just—" "Neither could I cut in. "But Mom made sure we didn't have a choice. She left you everything, the house, her savings, all of it. And you want to know the best part? I spent the last year caring for her, draining my savings, losing my fiancé, while she knew all along she was leaving everything to you." "I don't want any of it," he said quickly. "Keep it. I never asked for this." "Neither did I." Several people turned to stare at my outburst. I lowered my voice. "Neither did I. But here we are." Braden studied me for a long moment. "There's more to this story. There has to be. The woman in these letters, she loved both of us. She wouldn't have done this without a reason." I thought of the video on the USB drive, still unwatched, maybe, but does it matter? The damage is done. "It matters to me." He gathered the letters carefully. Look, I teach until 3 every day. If you want, come back tomorrow. We can go through these together, try to understand. I almost said no. This wasn't how my confrontation was supposed to go. He was supposed to be arrogant, entitled, not this thoughtful man who looked so much like Mom. It hurt. Fine, I heard myself say. Tomorrow. As I drove home, my phone rang. Aunt Sylvia, did you meet him? She asked without preamble. How did you? Because I know you, Vienna, just like your mother did. Did you watch the video yet? I gripped the steering wheel tighter. No. You should. Before you go back tomorrow. How did you know I'm going back? She chuckled softly. Because you're your mother's daughter. And she never could leave a mystery unsolved either. I hung up, but her words followed me home. That night, I sat staring at the USB drive, wondering what other secrets Mom had left behind. Tomorrow, I'd see Brayden again. Tomorrow, we'd start unraveling the truth together. But first, I had a video to watch. I watched Mom's video 3 times that night. Each viewing revealed new layers of pain, love, and sacrifice I hadn't understood before. Your father was a cruel man, Vienna, Mom said in the recording. When I met Thomas, Brayden's father, it was like finding air after drowning. But Thomas died in a car accident before I could tell him about the baby. Your father's threats about taking you away if I ever shamed him. I couldn't risk losing you both. The next morning, I arrived at Madison West High School, just as Brayden was finishing his class. Through the window, I watched him joking with students, his gestures mirroring Mom's so perfectly, it made my chest ache. Ready? He asked when he saw me. I know a quiet place where we can talk. We settled in a small park nearby, spreading the letters between us on a picnic table. I found something else last night, I said, pulling out an envelope. Photos Mom kept hidden. Look at this one. The photograph showed Mom holding baby Brayden in a hospital room, tears streaming down her face. On the back was written, "My son, my secret, my heart, 1993. She loved you," I said quietly. That's clear in everything I've found. Brayden touched the photo gently. Then why give me up? Why never tell me? Because of my father. Watch this. I played him part of Mom's video on my phone. His face darkened as he listened to Mom describe my father's abuse, his threats, the impossible choice she faced. She protected you from him, he said when it ended. Both of us, really. But why leave everything to you now? Why put me through caring for her just to... Vienna. Aunt Sylvia's voice cut through the park. She hurried toward us, clutching her purse. Thank God I found you both. How did you know we'd be here? Jordan told me. She sat down, heavily, out of breath. There's something you need to know. Something your mother made me promise to tell you both when the time was right. She pulled out a thick envelope. Your mother didn't just leave everything to Brayden. She left it to both of you, together. What? I grabbed the envelope, scanning the documents inside. But Otis told you what your mother instructed him to say. She knew you, Vienna, knew you'd need to understand the whole story before you could accept sharing your inheritance. And she knew you'd need to meet Brayden to see the kind of man he became. So this was all some elaborate setup? I felt my anger rising again. Another manipulation. No, Brayden said suddenly. It was a gift. He pointed to one of the letters we'd been reading. Look at the date. She wrote this the day after my wedding, when she watched from afar. My greatest regret is that my children will never know each other, never understand the love that kept them apart, was the same love that could bring them together. Aunt Sylvia nodded. She spent 30 years protecting you both from your father's cruelty, but in the end, she wanted to give you what she never could before, each other. I stared at the inheritance papers, the house, the savings, everything was to be shared equally. But only if Brayden and I could work together to settle the estate. There's more, Aunt Sylvia said. Your mother left letters for both of you, explaining everything. But she was clear, you have to read them together. She handed us each an envelope, then stood. I'll leave you to it. But remember, your mother's greatest wish was for her children to find in each other what she could never give you herself. The truth. and a chance at real family. As she walked away, Braden and I sat in silence, holding our unopened letters. "Well," he said finally, "should we read them?" I looked at him, this stranger who was my brother, this man who shared my mother's eyes and my own sense of loss. Together, he nodded. Together, we opened our letters simultaneously. Mom's familiar handwriting filled the pages, but these weren't just explanations or apologies. They were stories, stories of our childhoods, parallel lives she'd watched over, moments she'd treasured from afar. And at the end of each letter was the same message. The inheritance isn't about money. It's about healing. It's about taking the broken pieces of our family and building something new, something honest, something yours. I looked up to find Braden watching me, his eyes, our mother's eyes, filled with tears. "So," he said softly, "what do we do now?" The answer came easier than I expected. "We start over. We learn to be siblings. We figure out what family means without the secrets." He smiled, Mom's smile. "I'd like that." As the sun set over the park, we began to read the letters again, this time sharing the stories aloud, piecing together the fragments of our shared history, and starting to understand the complex love that had both divided and united us. Over the next few weeks, Braden and I fell into a strange routine of sorting through Mom's belongings together every weekend. Each item we uncovered felt like another piece of a puzzle we were slowly assembling. "Look at this," Braden called from the attic, holding up a dusty photo album. "It's full of newspaper clippings." I climbed up beside him, shining my flashlight on the yellowed pages. Every academic award, every teaching achievement, every community service mention with Braden's name had been carefully preserved. "She really did follow my whole life," he whispered. "Even my first teaching job announcement. She was proud of you." I pulled out another box, just like she was proud of. I stopped, staring at what I'd found. "What is it?" I lifted out a familiar blue dress. "I wore this to my college graduation. She said she had it specially made." My fingers traced the intricate beadwork. "But look at this." Hidden in the folds was a receipt from a vintage shop, dated 1993. The dress had originally belonged to Sarah, Braden's aunt who raised him. "Sarah wore this to her graduation," Braden said, recognition dawning. "I've seen photos. Mom, Hazel. She wanted you to have a piece of both families, didn't she?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Jordan. "You need to come to the diner," she said, without preamble. "Your aunt's here, and she's ready to tell you everything." 20 minutes later, Braden and I sat across from Aunt Sylvia in a booth at Jerry's Diner. She looked tired, clutching her coffee cup like a lifeline. "I should have told you this years ago," she began. "Your father, Vienna, he didn't just threaten to take you away. He threatened to destroy everyone involved if the truth about Braden ever came out." "What do you mean?" Braden leaned forward. "He was a powerful man in town. Banking, real estate. He could ruin lives with a phone call. When he found out about your mother's pregnancy, he gave her an ultimatum. Give up the baby or lose everything, including Vienna." "But why keep it secret all these years?" I asked. "He died 10 years ago." Sylvia pulled out an old envelope. "Because of this, your father's last act of cruelty." Inside was a legal document, a codicil to his will, stating that if Hazel ever acknowledged Braden or tried to give him any family assets, everything would go to a conservative religious organization instead. "She fought it for years," Sylvia continued. "Hired lawyers in secret, tried to find loopholes. That's why she waited until now, structured the inheritance the way she did. She found a way to give you both everything without triggering your father's claws. By making us work together," Braden said slowly. "By forcing us to become family first." The waitress arrived with more coffee, giving me a moment to process. All these years, I'd thought Mom's secrets were about shame or guilt. But they were about protection, not just of Braden, but of everything she'd built for both of us. "There's something else," Sylvia said, reaching into her purse. "Your mother left this with me." Said to give it to you when you were ready to understand. She handed me a small leather journal. Inside, Mom's handwriting filled every page with letters. Letters to both of us, written every year on our birthdays, never sent. Dear Vienna and Braden, I read aloud from the first page. Today, Vienna lost her first tooth, and Braden won his first spelling bee. I wish more than anything I could celebrate these moments together, as a family. Keep reading, Sylvia urged gently. One day, when the truth can finally come out, I hope you'll both understand that love sometimes means making impossible choices. But I've watched you both grow into such remarkable people. Vienna with her fierce loyalty and determination, Braden with his gentle heart and quiet strength. You're so different, yet so alike. You're both fighters, both dreamers, both mine. Braden wiped his eyes. All those years, she was writing to us both. She never stopped hoping you'd find each other, Sylvia said. That you'd build the family she couldn't give you. I looked at Braden, my brother, no longer a stranger, and saw Mom's hope reflected in his eyes. We'd started this journey seeking answers, maybe even revenge. Instead, we'd found something far more valuable, the truth about our mother's love, and the chance to become the family she'd always dreamed we'd be. So, Braden said, reaching for the journal, shall we read the rest together? I nodded, feeling the last of my anger dissolve into understanding. Together, we need to talk about the house, Braden said one Saturday morning, as we sorted through Mom's kitchen. 2 months had passed since we'd learned the full truth, and we'd settled into an unexpected friendship. What about it? I asked, labeling another box of dishes. I think you should keep it. He held up his hand as I started to protest. Hear me out. This is your home. You grew up here. And honestly, I have my own place in Madison. But the inheritance, we can figure something else out. Split the savings, maybe? He smiled, picking up one of Mom's old coffee mugs. Besides, Sarah, my aunt, she left me her house. Seems fair you should have this one. Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. It was Otis, looking uncomfortable in the weekend casual wear that didn't suit him. We need to discuss something, he said, clutching his briefcase. About the will. My stomach dropped as we sat in the living room. What's wrong? There's been a challenge. Otis pulled out some papers. Your father's old associates at the religious organization. They're claiming the inheritance violates the terms of his codicil. But Mom found a way around that, I protested. They're arguing that any acknowledgement of Braden as family triggers the clause. They want everything. The house, the savings, all of it. Braden stood up suddenly. This is ridiculous. They can't just. They can try, Otis interrupted. And they have the resources for a lengthy legal battle. I felt the old anger rising. Even from the grave, my father was trying to control us, to keep us apart. So what do we do? I asked. Fight back, came a voice from the doorway. Aunt Sylvia stood there with Jordan, both carrying thick folders. We've been doing some digging. They spread the contents across the coffee table. Bank statements, old letters, legal documents. Your father wasn't as clever as he thought, Jordan explained. He left a paper trail. Look at these donations to the organization. All made under false names, all traced back to money he embezzled from his clients. And here, Sylvia pointed to some letters, proof that he blackmailed the organization's board members to agree to his terms. The whole codicil was built on fraud. Otis adjusted his glasses, examining the documents. This changes everything. With evidence of fraud, we can have the codicil invalidated entirely. But it's not that simple, is it? Braden asked quietly. No, Otis admitted. Going to court means making everything public. Your mother's affair, the adoption, all of it. I looked at Braden, seeing my own conflict reflected in his face. We'd just started to heal, to build something real. Did we want to drag everything into the open? I have an idea, I said slowly. What if we don't fight it? Vienna, Sylvia started. No, listen. What if we donate everything, not to their organization, but to causes Mom believed in? Education programs, cancer research, adoption support services. Braden's face lit up. We could set up a foundation in her name. Use the money to help other families torn apart by circumstances beyond their control. Can we do that? I asked Otis. He was already flipping through his papers. Actually, yes. If you both agree to donate the assets voluntarily, the codicil becomes irrelevant. They can't challenge what you've already given away. It's perfect, Jordan said. Your father wanted to use the money to divide people. You'll use it to bring them together instead. I looked around the room, at Braden, my brother who'd become my friend, at Sylvia and Jordan, who'd helped uncover the truth, at Otis, who'd kept Mom's secrets until the right time. Mom's last letter said the inheritance wasn't about money, I said. It was about healing, about building something new. Braden nodded. So we'll build something that helps others heal too. Your mother would be proud, Sylvia whispered, wiping her eyes. Later that evening, Braden and I sat on the porch steps, watching the sunset just like Mom used to do. You know what's funny, he said. When you first showed up at my classroom, I thought my life was about to fall apart. Instead, it finally feels complete. I leaned against his shoulder, feeling the truth of his words. Mom knew what she was doing, didn't she? Making us work together, forcing us to understand each other before we could understand her. She gave us the greatest inheritance possible, he agreed. She gave us each other. As the sky turned purple and gold, I thought about how far we'd come from that day in Otis's office when I'd wanted revenge. Mom had known all along what I'd eventually learn, that the real power wasn't in getting even, but in rising above, in building something beautiful from the ashes of the past. Ready? Braden asked, adjusting his tie as we stood outside the community center. Almost. I smoothed the wrinkles from the blue vintage dress, Sarah's dress, Mom's gift, that I'd chosen to wear today, just nervous. Through the windows, I could see the crowd gathering for the launch of the Hazel Foundation. Local press, community leaders, and families who would benefit from our programs filled the seats. They're ready for you, Jordan said, poking her head out. Full house. Braden squeezed my hand as we walked to the podium. The familiar faces in the audience gave me strength. Aunt Sylvia in the front row, Otis with his slightly crooked bow tie, even my old boss, Simone, who'd helped develop our outreach strategy. Welcome, I began, my voice steady. Many of you knew our mother, Hazel, as a quiet woman who loved books and kept to herself. What you didn't know was that she spent 30 years protecting a secret that would ultimately bring her children together. Braden stepped forward. We're here today not just to launch a foundation, but to share a story about love, forgiveness, and the true meaning of family. As we took turns explaining the foundation's mission, supporting families separated by circumstances, funding education initiatives, and providing legal aid to parents fighting to keep their children, I watched the audience's reactions. There were tears, nods of understanding, and moments of surprised recognition as people pieced together the truth about Mom's past. Every dollar that could have torn us apart, Braden said, will now help bring other families together. After the presentation, during the reception, a young woman approached us clutching a pamphlet. My sister and I, she hesitated. We were separated in foster care 15 years ago. Your legal aid program, could it really help us reconnect? That's exactly what it's for, I smiled, thinking of Mom. Sometimes families just need a second chance to find each other. Later, as we packed up the remaining materials, Aunt Sylvia handed me an envelope. Found this in your mother's old recipe box this morning, she said. It's addressed to both of you, dated the day before she died. Braden and I sat in the empty auditorium to read it together. My dearest children, by now you've discovered not just each other, but the truth about why I kept you apart. What you might not understand is that every day of separation was also a day of preparation, preparing you both to be strong enough, wise enough, and loving enough to heal our broken family when the time came. Vienna, your fierce loyalty and determination helped you care for me until the end, even when it cost you everything. Braden, your compassionate heart and gentle spirit made you the kind of teacher who changes lives. Together, you possess everything needed to turn our family's pain into purpose. I'm leaving you my greatest burden, but also my greatest hope. The money, the house, they're just things. The real inheritance is the chance to right my wrongs, to help other families avoid our fate, and to become the siblings you were always meant to be. I love you both, eternally and completely, Mom. She knew, Braden said softly. She knew we'd choose this path. Of course she did. I looked around the auditorium, imagining the families we'd help, the lives we'd change. She taught us how, even if we didn't realize it at the time. Ms. Vienna, the young woman from earlier, stood in the doorway with her sister, newly reunited through our program's preliminary outreach. We just wanted to say thank you for everything. Watching them leave, arms linked, I felt Mom's presence stronger than ever. She'd transformed her greatest regret into our greatest purpose, her deepest wounds into our strongest bonds. Hey, Braden nudged my shoulder. Want to grab coffee? I found Mom's old journal entries about your 8th grade dance recital disaster. Figure it's time I heard that story. I laughed, linking my arm through his. Only if you tell me about the time you accidentally set fire to your aunt's kitchen trying to make breakfast in bed. As we walked out together, I caught our reflection in the window. Mom's eyes, her smile, her determination mirrored in both our faces. We'd started this journey as strangers united by betrayal, but we'd ended it as siblings, united by understanding, forgiveness, and a shared mission to help others find what we'd found. The truth that family isn't just about blood or inheritance, but about the choices we make and the love we choose to give. Behind us, the Foundation's new logo glowed softly. A simple heart formed by 2 intertwined hands, with Mom's favorite quote beneath it, "Love finds a way." And she'd been right. It had.